Welcome to the Peopling Podcast, where we hang out with brilliant human beings who teach us how to be better, well, humans, and decode what makes us tick and click. Inspired by the book Peopling, available on Amazon. Let's get this episode started.
Welcome, friends, to the Peopling Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Ruzzi, and this podcast is inspired by my book, Peopling. Check it out. And I get to tap into the minds and wisdom of some amazing people. And I cannot wait to introduce you to today's VIP guest and my friend. Joe Pici has been ranked number one as a sales trainer and keynote speaker by global gurus. He has spoken in 4 continents, has trained thousands of people. He is the host of the Sales Edge podcast and the co-founder of Pici and Pici. He's also the author of Sell Naked on the Phone. How much fun is that?
No pictures.
That's right. No, it's not a picture book, guys. On top of all of the accolades, the amazing experience, and the incredible point of view that Mr. Pici is going to bring to us today, more importantly, he is a friend. I had been introduced to Joe, when I moved to Central Florida about 13 years ago. And I remember sitting down across from you, Joe. I was so nervous. To talk with you. You're this polished, accomplished, well-known business owner that helps amazing salespeople and speakers. And I just remember feeling so much intimidation. And then over the years and through his training, you have single-handedly been probably the biggest impact in my sales career. You've taught me amazing skill sets. You've helped me build confidence. I've been through your speaker in a box. I've been through your sales training. I am DISC certified through you. You're a human behavior expert and a DISC certified expert. Joe, you've had an incredible impact in my life. And through all of our time over more than a decade, I get to call you friend. So that's the most special title of all.
Most special, yeah.
Yeah, so you're not intimidating to me anymore.
I'm
You hold
old. I'm just old.
I'm
I've been
kidding.
doing a lot for a long time.
A very special place in my heart, and I'm just so grateful to you for what you've done for me and what you do for a lot of people. So I'm very excited to get to unpack who you are, what led you to where you're at in this place in your career, what keeps you going, this passion that just keeps you going, because I know you have these large workshops that you host only a couple times a year, and they fill out months and months in advance. So tell our audience a little bit about who Joe Pici is and where you got to where you're at today.
Who Joe Pici is? Well, I'd rather tell you what I do for my clients, because my specialty area is helping my clients get an unfair advantage over their competitors, generating leads multiple ways, booking appointments with decision makers, negotiating higher fees, increased closing ratios. One of our verticals, of course, is sales, very consultative. And another vertical is we specialize in helping speakers, coaches, trainers, and consultants learn how to make money with that talent and intellectual property.
I love that, because you're not a coach. You don't put people through some long 12-week process and stick them in with other people. You offer a very different approach. I've been through, I think, all of your workshops, and what's the most amazing thing? You get to see these people just transform in front of your eyes, right? Let's focus on sales.
Well, let's start with this, okay? In 2021, we saw, even before COVID, we saw an adjustment in the marketplace. And at that time, if you were going to work with Pici and Pici, it was going to be 100% live, whether it was me going into a corporation, you coming to our boot camps, or live private coaching. We immediately began to diversify our own business, so now we can deliver our content 11 different ways, live, virtually. But back to your topic, the heart and soul of our business, the core, is our boot camps. So the sales boot camp, yes, it's been recognized 4 years in a row as the #1 sales workshop in the world by global gurus. And why is that? Well, I don't know. I don't know how we got there. You can't pay to play. But I do know we've impacted a lot of lives, because on the hallmark is that on Day three, every person is going to make live calls to real people in real time, not like a telemarketer, but to strategically set up an appointment. So we do see a big change in people because we have helped them master the hardest part of business and sales.
That is true to the core. I think the most amazing role somebody could ever have is sales. I there's something just really amazing about sales because you're a solution creator. And what I've also experienced firsthand is that it's scary to be a salesperson because there's that rejection that we can often take on personally, right?
Yeah,
Has
and
that been your biggest experience?
I think rejection, nobody likes rejection. Okay. It's kind of like when you're in third grade and you had the third grade dance. And I grew up in an Italian town. So in an Italian town, the girls mature much faster than the guys. And so they're taller and they have actually a physical shape on them. And the guys are all short and fat Italian guys. And so you go down the line, will you dance with me? No. Will you dance? Well, nobody likes the rejection. So we created a scripting methodology where people are not rejected. Okay. What they offer, a person could say no to, but it doesn't come at them directly. And I think that's important because 92% of people in outside sales quit.
And you're probably seeing that more than anybody because you're talking to a lot of business owners, people who are leading sales teams inside of big corporations. You are a catalyst for helping reshape what's not working for bringing that in. So you have intel that the rest of us don't see. And do you think that that's the number one thing right now is that the market has shifted so much, or do you think that it's a lack of training for people who, or is it a combination?
I think it's a lot of things. I think number one, people, because of AI, have lost their desire to become better communicators. Okay. Communication is the sole most important aspect. I'm getting ready to do a training on how human behavior has a direct advantage over AI. AI is important, but it will never replace that human element and touch. So why is it that so many people are adverse to sales? Why businesses go out of business? Because if you're not capable of creating client attraction and retention, your cash flow is going to go away. You're really going to, I addressed 35 entrepreneurs the other night that were part of a cohort, and I'm brought in to talk about sales. And I opened it up like this. How many of you can live on the money coming in from your business? Zero. How many of you have a strategy and skills to get clients in this down economy? Zero. And then I said very nicely and respectfully, you'll all be out of business in a year and a half. And that, not because I'm intelligent, because they're playing into statistics. No cash flow, no money. I had a lady call me up and says, Joe, I want to scale my business. I said, walk me through your sales process and your sales. Well, I don't have any. Without sales, there is no scaling.
Before we dive any deeper into this conversation, I want to take a quick moment to share a tool that has significantly improved my life, and that's called Growth Day. It's like having world-class mentors right in your pocket. There are daily challenges that help grow your confidence, your inspiration, and your drive. Check out the show notes for your link to a free trial, and don't let another moment pass you by without checking out Growth Day. Love that. So can you help somebody that let's say they have this goal. They have this goal of scaling. Can you help her then put together that process?
Yeah. One of the things we do, I act as a fractional sales manager for companies and individuals. And so the easy part for me is we don't train, speak, or coach on anything we don't do. So I can implement into her business exactly what we do in our process. Once she has a solid process in place, then if she decides to hire a salesperson, she can say, this is how we sell here. You see, salespeople can destroy your brand with one bad statement. So many companies hire salespeople and turn them loose. And because of your ability and your knowledge and your expertise, you're an expert at peopling and communication. And yet, so little time is spent on communication skills.
Incredible. So I know you, and I know that you come with a very tactical approach. Why is that so different and maybe even just so rare in the sales world?
Well, the majority of speakers, trainers, and coaches out there are extremely talented and gifted human beings, but they spend the majority of their time on why, the motivational aspect, which is important. We spend ours on the how because I have a little different way of approaching mindset. I think you can only fool yourself so many times. You can get as excited and motivated as you want. You can read all the self help books in the world. You can listen to all the motivational speakers in the world. But if you don't go out and perform action, the subconscious works like this: you have to earn the right to receive, and you can't lie to your subconscious. So if you don't do the things it takes to be successful tactically, hands on, your subconscious says you cannot have because you are not doing. It's that simple.
It's that simple and that mind-blowing though. That's a powerful statement that you just made, and I never saw it that way. Is that the face you get to see inside of your workshops when you say
The
these things? People
basis
go,
of what we do is many trainers, and again, I'm not putting anybody down because I have tremendous respect for anyone that can give into information that changes things. But many of the trainers in my world spend more of their time on the top, you know, with executives or with directors of sales or strategic planning or mindset development. That's good. I spend my time in the beginning with a company with the foot soldiers, and we get into the actual tactical skills, not create a value proposition, but what are the 10 steps to create a quality value proposition? Not generate leads because leads are important. We must have funnels. No, how do you generate leads 17 to 20 ways? So we go into the tactics. So during the course of that boot camp, the metamorphosis happens because these people are actually doing it. So when we get to the phone on Wednesday morning, they're not afraid anymore. They're like, I just need to color inside the lines, and they find success because, again, once you have your strategy and your tactics, sales is the law of numbers, and we're not going to change those law of numbers.
I think that you said something very powerful there. When you have the tools, the fear can be reduced. I still might be scared dialing the phone, but it's more about me than my inability because you just trained me with the ability, right? You helped me custom create the scripts, and I love the perspective shift that you gave. They're not rejecting me; they might be saying no to a request or to an offer.
Chris, what you're doing in your life, lining up to earn a PhD, is so much harder than what I do. I can tell you that right now. Sales, the mistake people make is they hire charisma and talent. Look, if you hire self discipline and ambition, you can teach skills and strategies. Okay. And so talent is wonderful, but you cannot duplicate talent. All right. And so, for us, what we did was we broke it down into what is the complete strategic process for sales, and then each skill that goes with it, we do vertically. It's the same thing in our business of speaking, training, coaching, consulting. The people that come to that boot camp already know how to speak. They're already authors like yourself. They already know how to coach. What we teach them is all the strategies and tactics to do what? Generate quality clients that pay them. What a concept.
I've met a lot of consultants. I've met a lot of speakers. I'm in the Toastmasters world, so I meet a lot of speakers, and so many people are not getting paid for the value that they bring to their speaking. What would you say is, and I'm not asking you to give away your secret sauce, but
No,
what
no,
would you say is
it's
like,
okay.
yeah, like,
It's you. I can tell your people anything.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. What would you say is one thing? So you've uncovered a few things in the sales world that is often the block. What would you say for consultants and coaches and speakers? What's the thing that's keeping them from being able to see what's possible with getting paid for their services?
They mistake what happens on the stage for what happens off the stage. They put a lot of their time. They go to Toastmasters. They get a presentation coach. They work hard. Don't get me wrong. They work hard, but they don't work as hard to learn the back end of the business. And what Dawn and I did, because we didn't play in a Super Bowl, we didn't have pedigree, we didn't work at IBM, we had to learn the speaking, training, coaching, consulting business from the ground up. And so therefore we couldn't skip. We didn't get a pass. We don't get these, well, I know a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that worked for IBM and you're in. No, we had to learn how to take it from scratch. So we built that platform. And so anyone, I don't care if they're New York Times bestsellers, or I don't care if they're just getting started, we can plug them into our system. And if they execute the process, they will get paid.
I love that. And I know that firsthand because I've been through it. I'm curious, do you have a story of an absolute failure as you were learning and putting this together that you said, aha, I had to go through that failure in order to learn this so I can pay it forward and share it through your coaching or your
What do you
training?
mean? Did I have personal failure?
Yes.
Absolutely. Look, anybody who's successful that says they've never failed, they're either lying or
Yep.
they're not very successful. Okay. Most multimillionaires, they're on their fifth or sixth try. So I will tell you one thing that I learned very early in this industry. Our boot camps, October 19, 2021 is our sales, 22, 23, 24 is our speaker. We're already 60% sold out. And one of the first ones we ever had, there was a company with guys I knew from Lakeland, Florida, and they were in some type of financial services. And they called me up and they said, we want to send 4 or 5 people to your event.
Great.
And I broke my own rule. My rule is that you pay 50% upfront and you pay the balance 3 weeks before the event. I don't owe people money. Nobody owes me money. Nothing goes on my calendar if I don't get 50% non-refundable. But because I knew them, lesson, and it was like 3 days before the boot camp, I said, send a check. To which they didn't. To which the second day came. Oh, I forgot it. The third day came. Oh, and I called the secretary. And then I got the runaround. When I finally decided to get in my car and drive to Lakeland, because it's only 45 minutes away, the FBI was unloading all of their stuff, putting it in vans and carrying them out with shackles. They were all put in jail for mail fraud.
No.
6 weeks later, I get a call from the FBI. Now, when you're Italian and the FBI calls you, that's not a good day, you know? Hey, when I was growing up, there was a show on that was called the FBI, and it was always Italians. Okay, so this lady says, I'm so-and-so with the FBI, and I go, prove it. She goes, what do you mean? I said, look, we live in Florida, okay? She said, okay, go on our FBI website. Here's my name. See if I'm there. And I did. So next day she calls me up. She goes, your name comes up as someone that is owed $20,000. She says, were you an investor? I said, no, I was a vendor. She said, you don't sound upset about this. I said, my wife's upset. I'm not. She said, why? I said, that taught me a great lesson early in our boot camp series. So from now on, anybody who wants to say, I'll bring the check, I tell them that story. If you don't get burned, you don't learn. But it didn't cause me to quit. It didn't cause me to get angry. I'm I only learn when something bad happens. That's just the way I function. It's like, and so because we live on this full time, it's not a game to us. And I don't treat it like a game for anyone else. You know, if
Yeah.
this is what's going to put food on the table and take care of medical bills, you have maybe slightly a different view of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that story, and if somebody's gonna send you a check, it better be a cashier's check and in advance. I love that lesson learned. Joe, I got to sit through your sales boot camp, in the first year that I'd met you, and I'm entering a new career. I don't know anybody around me in a relationship-based industry. I know nobody. And so I had all these stories, right? I had all of these excuses why I wasn't launching. And I remember you said it, and I don't know exactly how you said it, but the way I remember it was I've got to invest in myself in this skill set. See, I was thrown in sales. I sold cell phones and I sold cars and I sold airtime for a radio station. I was a salesperson, but I wasn't. I never had formal training. Somebody that was my leader or my manager said, do it this way, do it that way, and really just had me emulating somebody else's style or what may have worked this one time for this guy 10 years ago. And that's just it's such a waste of energy. And I feel like that's why so many people leave this great industry. In sales, you can make more than physicians and attorneys and not have the $300,000 student loan bills. What would you say is the one thing that might be a fear or a block or even a story if somebody can't afford you right now? Well, if they can't afford you now, they're probably not gonna be able to afford you in the future because 'cause they're not making money, right? So, right, they can listen into, to your podcast, and I'll make sure that that's in the show notes, but, like, what would you say is the biggest blocker for people? They just think that they can wing it, or why wouldn't they come to proper training?
There's a lot of reasons why people won't come to a formal training because most people have never been formally trained. Okay, that's just the way it is. I mean, years ago they might have been, but in the 21st century, most people don't get formal sales training. Chet Holmes, who was at one time the best sales marketer and trainer in the world, and teamed up with Tony Robbins, and they had this special boot camp in Maui. Okay, and he died very early in his life. But he said in his book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, the lowest form of training is when you take one person and sit them next to a producer and say, learn from that person. And that's how most people learn to sell. And I don't talk anybody into anything. I find people that are ready. Okay. When a person decides it's time, but here's the thing about the money issue, because I really don't believe money's ever really an issue. Because the same person who says I can't afford it, that next weekend is at Disney. Okay, that same person is on a cruise, and I don't get into all that. I don't challenge them on that. I don't overcome that. I don't sell, I find buyers. And so people that don't believe they need to do that. One Memorial Day, I sat down at my desk and I keep everything on legal pads, phone numbers. And I took 50 people that had said no to me the year before. All 50 of them owned a business, and all 50 of them were no longer in business and were working for someone else. Okay. And so, my advice to anyone, if you're going to own a business, if you're going to be in any type of sales role, get formal training. But when you decide to hire a coach, a trainer, a speaker, be very careful. Number one, make sure they are actually doing what they're coaching you to do. Make sure they're being successful. See, the good thing about social media and the bad thing about social media. Bad thing about social media is you actually believe a lot of those people are making the money they say they're making. So you get into the comparison game. The good thing about social media, it allowed Joe and Dawn Pici, who didn't have a lot of money for marketing, to compete with the top people in the world. But then we had to prove our worth. And so What we decided to do was we would only train and speak and coach on what our clients could measure and quantify. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely. That's incredible. You know, how do I want to say this? A lot of times, if somebody can't do, they teach, right? I've heard that over and over again. Well, if you can't be successful at it, go teach at it. And you're the one person I can think of that is successful at it and teaches it, because every time we talk, you are pounding the phones. You're going through, like you said, your list of numbers, right? And you're potentially experiencing no's to get to that yes, to find that right person. If anybody's been part of BNI, Business Network International, you have probably heard of the founder before, and I remember a story. I heard him on a podcast, and he was saying he was the keynote speaker in front of thousands of people, and he said, "How many people came here to sell something?" And it was, all salespeople. They all raised their hands, and he said, "How many people came here to buy something?" And very few hands went up, right? We don't want to be sold, but we love to buy when we believe that the outcome of our purchase or our investment is the right thing for us. And so, if I could, for my own audience, I was first year as a mortgage loan officer, and much to your example there, Joe, not formal training. I went and got my license. I got to sit next to somebody, heard how they made some conversations, and that first or second year in sales it's paying your dues. You've got money going out, right? You got gas and networking groups and investing so much time. And I'm thinking, who in the world would jeopardize their paycheck, right? To work with somebody who has no idea what she's doing yet. I haven't cut my teeth. I haven't made my mistakes. I haven't proven myself yet. But you gave me the tools to show up polished, confident, and with precision on what I could offer. And from that training, I still have relationships. But that tore open what has become the best decade of my life and in my career. And we don't have time to waste,
No,
right?
no.
I know a lot of salespeople, and I'm sure you do as well. Oh, I've been in sales for 20 years. And you know what I'd like to say? You repeated your first year 19 times.
Always. Well, in our society, when my father's generation, I'm old now, so that generation, if you were in business for 5 years, you proved your process. Nowadays, you have to re-engineer, restart, refocus every 12 months because things move so quickly.
They do.
You know,
They absolutely do.
what I'm excited about is what you've done with this whole peopling thing, because I do believe the people who will dominate will be great at communications and understand technology. I didn't say great at technology and understand. The great communicators with knowledge of technology are going to outperform because people still do business with people they know, like, and trust.
That's right. And sales is a people business. Most of the sales out there will always need that human interaction. Joe, I'd like to ask you a question to round out our time together. We have what's called the Be the Change Challenge. In a portion of my book, there's a section there that
What was
talks
that
about
challenge? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Be the Change Challenge. Yep. And so we want to be able to infuse something that we can learn from you today on how we can be the change in our own world, our own sphere. We can't control what else is going out in the world, but we can control who we are to the people in our lives. So is there one takeaway, one thing that you could share with somebody today, whether it's for their business life or their personal life, on how they could show up differently for their sphere, their world, and they can be the change for somebody else?
I'm going to tie this into sales. Sell with the intent and the motivation to give more than you receive and to make sure your clients get the results they wanted. Don't look at anybody as a paycheck. Look at them with the idea, I'm going to help them get what they're looking for. And then I will, many years ago, Robert Kiyosaki said, Your income is based on how many people you help, right? But the bottom line is, you know what? We sell consultatively. So if I can share anything with your audience, give more than you receive, and you will receive plenty back.
Hmm. That is powerful and words to live by. Thank you for that. And to our friends listening, you're going to have all of Joe's contact information. You'll be able to tune into his podcast. You can check out his website. He's
Can
got
I give a
information
free
there.
gift
Yes,
away?
absolutely.
I have a free
Yes,
gift.
please. Yes.
Everybody who's watching this, take out your cell phone, go into your text box, put the word sales edge in the message. That's one word, sales edge. Send it to 59925. That'll take you to a Pici and Pici link. Hit the link, take you to a splash page. You'll just put an email in there. They will send you a 45-minute free sales webinar. And anybody that ever wants a complimentary cup of Joe, just call me at 407-947-2590.
Excellent. You heard it from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joe Pici. What an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank
My
you.
friend, my mentor, my trainer. Thank you for imparting your wisdom for all of us to get a little bit sharper and a new perspective when it comes to approaching sales. And it's refreshing. So thank you so much for being
Thank
with us
you.
today.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Until next time, friends.
Thanks for tuning in to the Peopling Podcast, and grab your copy of the Peopling book on Amazon, and let's keep this connection movement going. Until next time, be curious, be kind, and keep peopling like you mean it.